Hey, so I realized that I've been using this term inner senses, and I haven't explained what I mean by that. I'm on a walk in the Arboretum in Portland, Oregon, and it felt like a good place to talk about inner senses because this particular region happens to be chock full of fae. So if you happen to have inner sight, you can watch this video with your inner sight and you might see some fae. Um, for a little context, this video is going to make more sense if you've already watched the What is Magic video and the States and Stages of Spiritual Development video. So I'm going to put links to those in the description below so that you can watch those if you haven't yet. And now I'm going to turn the camera around so that you can see what I'm seeing as I go on this walk. And this is basically just going to be a podcast. So if you want to go on your own walk in your favorite place while you listen to this, then we can walk together. So the term inner senses is not my term. I got it from Josephine McCarthy. Josephine McCarthy is a magical practitioner. She's legit. She's the real deal. Actually, I will include a link in the description below for her website too. And on it you can find free books of hers if you want to dip your toe in and read some of her work. Also, the site, it's Quaria.com is the site. The main purpose of the site is it is a full comprehensive course in magic that's free, and I mean, you can buy the books if you want physical copies, but the whole thing is available online for free. And it's a good course. I've done some of it myself. And this is not a sponsorship. This is not an affiliated link or anything like that. It's just a good resource, so I want to share it with you guys. Anyway, so I used to call, like, my inner sight, for example, I used to call it my other eyes, as in I have my physical eyes and then I have my other eyes. When I first ran across the term inner senses in Josephine's work, I didn't like it, actually, because it didn't make sense to me. Because most of the time when I'm using inner senses, I'm sensing things that are outside of myself. So why would they be inner senses? That makes it sound like it's just something that's happening in my head. But when I read her explanation for why she uses the term inner senses, it made a lot of sense. She says that when we use our inner senses, we are accessing them through our inner faculties, like our imagination, basically our minds. So we go, in a sense, we go inward in order to access these senses. And that's why she calls them inner senses. And that made a lot of sense to me, so I started using the term. I also like it because it makes it really easy to differentiate between, like, outer sight and inner sight, or outer hearing and inner hearing, etc., when talking about experiences of different phenomena and layers of reality. So what are inner senses? I think they are essentially our experiences of subtle and or causal phenomena and layers of reality. And we can use them to experience subtle and causal phenomena in manifested reality, or we can also use them to sense and access other layers of reality. And both of these ways of using inner senses are very useful for doing magic. The way that magic works, at least the kinds of magic that science doesn't yet understand, you need to access subtle and or causal layers of reality in order to do magic, in order to have an effect. Even when the effect is in physical reality, you still need to access subtle and or causal layers of reality in order to have that effect on physical reality. And our inner senses are what allow us to do that. It is technically possible to do magic without using your inner senses, but in my experience, you need to have some sort of tool, some sort of medium, like an external magical tool to make that connection for you to the subtle or causal layers of reality. So, what are inner senses useful for? Well, at the very basic level, they're useful for communicating with your subconscious and with your higher conscious. In the case of your subconscious, both to receive messages from your subconscious and to send messages to your subconscious. And in the case of higher conscious, in order to receive messages which are basically inner guidance of various kinds. And one could actually say that all inner senses are some form of either communicating with one's subconscious or higher conscious. So types of inner senses include the basic 5, like inner sight, inner hearing, inner touch, inner smell, and inner taste. And also, I would include what I sometimes call that spidey sense, the sense of danger when there's no particular external reason why something should feel dangerous. But there's just this, strong sense of harm might happen if I proceed. I would call that an inner sense. And I would also call, I think, that inner knowing, when you just know that something is true, like it pings for you, or some kind of knowledge just comes to you and you don't know why, but you just know it. I think I might call those a type of inner sense, maybe. And as I understand it, in Buddhism, they even call thought a type of sense. So in that case, thought would also be an inner sense. I think technically any experience of subtle and or causal phenomena or layers of reality could be included as an inner sense. But most of the time, when I say inner senses, I mean just the basic five. So, what are inner senses like? I gather that they're different for different people in their particulars, but in general, from my own experiences and from what I've heard from other people, it seems like inner senses manifest either as feeling like your imagination or as feeling like something physical, or sometimes a combination of the two. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, whether it's more like an imagination type experience or whether it's more like a physical experience. I mean, physical experiences all happen in our brains anyway, so at some level it's a moot point. So now I want to give some examples of each of the basic five inner senses. So sight, things that one can see with inner sight includes energy, the spirits of, or essences of, physical things, like, for example, the spirit of this cedar tree. And also non-corporeal beings, which I've mentioned before in my other videos, like fey creatures, like right here I'm looking at a dryad that belongs to this tree here. The dryad appears to me as female looking, and she's friendly. Most of the fae in this area are friendly. I feel like they're quite used to humans. Humans come through here a lot because it's an arboretum. Other things you can see, other non-corporeal beings, include parasites, which I've mentioned before, like non-corporeal parasites, deities, angelic beings, demonic beings. I mean, the subtle aspect of manifested reality is even more diverse than and populated than the physical aspect of manifested reality. So there's a lot. It's crowded. Another thing that inner sight makes possible is having visions, like visions of the future, visions of the past. Also, being able to navigate when astral projecting. Although you don't have to have inner sight, like you don't have to be, like I know some people have, like, inner sight is one of my strongest inner senses, but I know that that's not the case for everyone. So some people, when astral projecting, use other inner senses instead of inner sight. More like feelings instead of visuals, for example. Inner hearing helps with communicating with non-corporeal beings. It can also be a way of communicating with, like, listening to one's subconscious, or and or one's higher conscious. And inner hearing can also happen in visions as well. Inner touch can happen in visions too. But I think my favorite example of inner touch is when, for example, when I get physically close to an object or a person, everything is consciousness. So anytime I get close to some part of consciousness, I feel a tingling sensation. I've heard other people who also have this sense describe it as feeling like a buzzing sensation. I think one person described it as feeling like champagne bubbles. And I've had this sense my whole life. So for a long time, I didn't know that it was separate from a physical sense. The only thing that showed me that it was different was when I did an exercise actually in Quaria that made it that blocked off my ability to use my inner senses to sense other beings. And this tingling sensation went away. I could still touch something and physically feel it, but I no longer had that tingling sensation. And that was really mind-opening, because it showed me that the way that things physically feel to me, because this tingling sensation does feel like a physical sensation to me, but apparently not everyone feels things that way. Apparently the tingling sensation is an inner sense. And then, which way should I go? How did I get down? How did I get here? Can I come past this way? Okay, thank you. And then inner taste. If you've ever tasted something and been like, oh, this was made with love, that's inner taste. When something is made with intention, energy is put into it, and you can taste that with inner taste. So you can have the same exact recipe, same ingredients, same methods, made by two different people, one of who is just going through the motions, or maybe they're in a shitty mood or whatever, and the other one is made with attention and care. And those two dishes, even though they're physically identical, will taste different. And that's the inner taste. Inner smell, I suspect, is what I'm experiencing when I, for example, use two different kinds of incense and technically they have the same scent, but one of them has like energy cleansing properties or some other kind of beneficial energetic properties. And I'll just be like, oh, wow, that smells really good. And then the other one, even though it technically has the same scent, maybe it's poor quality energy or even harmful energy, and I'll just hate the smell. I won't be able uh, to be around it. So I hope that was helpful for explaining what inner senses are. So I ended up running out of battery in the field, so I'm finishing up the audio here in my studio space. As usual, if you have any questions about this topic, feel free to post them in the comments below. I really enjoyed doing this. I think I might do another walk and chat in the future. If you have any uh, opinions or suggestions about what topics I should cover in this sort of format, uh, post that as well. I'd be very interested. Anyway, I hope to see you again soon.